about 3 verses, one of the most outstanding, dramatic acts that Jesus is recorded in the Gospel of Mark, because it's a man with leprosy who comes to him. Now, in Old Testament time, there were a lot of skin diseases that got labeled as leprosy. And as soon as you had some type of leprosy, you were immediately banished from the village. You could not communicate with your family. You could not go back to your job. And you were expected to have 0 contact with anyone. And so typically, either you'd live alone, or you would find a leper colony to be with. Now, this was a time, there's no modern medicine, so you could have had something contagious like smallpox, and then as soon as you're healed, you can go show yourself to the priest and like, oh, yep, you're healed, you can come back to your family and your job and worship in the synagogue. But some of these skin diseases were really not contagious, or so minimally, including Hansen's disease that we think of as leprosy, and the bacteria, the rotting from the outside in. But there were other kinds of eczema, cirrhosis, certain dermatitis, ringworm, these kinds of rashes and hives. If you had them, you had to leave the village. And so you can imagine most people hid these things, hoping it would just go away and it wouldn't be noticeable. Because once you were in a village, if somebody approached you, you had to say, unclean, unclean, as in don't come any closer. We heard in the first reading, you were to tear your garments, and you were to shave off your head, your hair, and if you had a beard, muffle it. And these were the kinds of things people did when they went to funerals. And so you were actually termed the living dead. And if anybody came across you without receiving any warning, and they saw how you looked, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're a leper. And they would do one of 2 things. They would either run away, or they'd start picking up stones and throwing them at you. This really was like a death sentence. And so in this story, and by the way, if you were family and friend and you dared to go and talk to them and touch them, you were considered contagious and had to be removed for a period of time until it was proven that you didn't get the disease. In the story we heard, the leper approaches Jesus, kneels down. I mean, this is like, you don't approach anybody, and begs him, if you wish, you can make me clean. Jesus, moved with pity, stretched out his hand, touched him. This would have been like radical. He could have given, if he wanted a miracle, just to say the word, sigh, stretch out your hand with your thought. But he did the unthinkable, and he touched the man. And instead of becoming unclean, he made the leper clean. There are 2 ways we can look at this story so that it becomes more practical for us. Every once in a life, we feel like the leper. And we know that people don't know how to handle us. They don't want to talk about it. And I don't care if it was getting pulled over in a traffic violation, and maybe with, alcoholic blood content, or maybe it's a divorce, or sometimes we can just feel ostracized because of something we said or did. And we can feel like a leper. And we need to be aware that Christ is for us. He will never run away. He inserts himself wherever there is pain, wherever there is misunderstanding, whenever we become the scapegoat. We must not allow ourselves to be labeled, even by ourselves. There are people who continue to say things like, oh, the sins of my youth, I don't know if God could ever love me. Jesus Christ comes and touches. He forgives. He heals. He makes us clean. We also need to hear this story from the perspective, since we are Christians, we are called to be Christ. And rather than judging people, when we see the messiness of the world, we are to insert ourselves in it. For example, let's just say if you find out somebody in your family thinks that they would like to be president of the United States, or somebody wants to go to college and study political science, you're like, are you kidding me? With all the social media and vetting and politics and lies and half-truths, and I wouldn't wish that on my enemy. No son or daughter, grandson, granddaughter of mine is going to do that. However, if Jesus Christ is calling that person, what better person than a Christian to try to be a legislator, a mayor, a governor, a president, a senator? The world needs Jesus Christ. The world needs Christians who are willing to enter in where it gets kind of messy. And people will say things, as they did of Jesus Christ, about how he touches the unclean or eats with sinners. And we as Christians might get a bad name and be misunderstood ourselves and labeled unclean or whatever version of leper, because we're not the good Catholic anymore. This gospel is meant for each one of us from both perspectives. For people who need Jesus Christ to heal and forgive us, and also from the perspective of being Christ for one another.